Greetings, everyone. Sayer G here. I am the founder of GreenMedInfo.com, as well as the chairman and co-founder of the Global Wellness Forum. I want to report on something which is a profound development, not just for myself personally, professionally, but I believe has profound bearing on constitutional protections in the US that were quashed over the past 4 years due to essentially foreign activist groups like the Center for Countering Digital Hate, a UK-based NGO infiltrating our government and essentially laundering free speech suppression on behalf of foreign governments. So, what happened was YouTube deplatformed myself and others on the so-called Disinfo Dozen list, which included RFK Jr., Dr. Sherry Tenpenny, Dr. Christian Northrup, Dr. Mercola, and others, including myself, who were essentially warning the public about the dangers of pharmaceutical interventions, especially around the time that the COVID-19 vaccines were being developed and then deployed. We were essentially a threat to that agenda and ran up against, of course, a lot of resistance. So the Center for Countering Digital Hate created essentially a fabricated report. It claimed that we were responsible for over 65% of the so-called misinformation or disinformation about COVID policies online, as if we 12 were solely responsible, and also a convenient way of distracting from the millions upon millions who stood up and had a lot of problems with government narratives and pharmaceutical narratives around what was the right thing to do at the time. So it's a very old trick to basically attack a small group and claim that they're the ones who represent, the minority fringe opinion on a topic, instead of focusing on the fact that actually this was a hundreds of millions of people issue. So what I'm going to report on is essentially YouTube just reinstated my accounts. So both my public GreenMedInfo account and my public Sayer G account. I had a third account too, GreenMedInfo Research. And so those three YouTube channels have now been reinstated. And the most amazing thing is, I'm going to show you this right now, is that they acknowledged that they should not have been removed. Essentially, what they've acknowledged here, as you can see, this was the October 16th reinstatement email, is that after taking another look at your channel content, we can confirm that your channel does not violate our community guidelines. Did you hear that? It does not violate our community guidelines. Thank you for your patience while we reviewed this appeal. Essentially, what they say here is that sometimes we make mistakes trying to get it right. We're sorry that we made this mistake. This is a really profound fact because what happened was last month, because Jim Jordan has been conducting subpoenas on the CEOs of big tech companies, looking back at the so-called weaponization of the federal government against citizens using laundering this suppression through big tech companies who hide behind Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act so that they cannot be brought to account. That changed because the CEO of Alphabet acknowledged that they did not want to basically shut down channels like mine, but the government directed them to do so. So the government can't suppress your or my free speech, right? That's a violation of the Constitution. There would be no government, right? If there was no Constitution. We're a constitutional republic. Certain rights are inviolable. They're granted by God and by our innate nature, which is to be free and to be able to express ourselves. So when a government takes a big tech shield, or plausibly deniable mechanism to suppress your speech or my speech, what they're doing is absolutely illegal and unconstitutional. So they acknowledged this as well as Mark Zuckerberg in August. He made similar statements. He said, "We knew it was wrong. We did not want to do this, but we did it because the government was essentially threatening us." So that's a profound fact. In fact, in the case of Facebook, we have documented video and evidence that they knew when they targeted the so-called disinfo dozen that we had not violated their standards. And actually, when they did their analysis of the so-called anti-vaccine content that CCDH tried to assign to us, they said only 0.05% of the vaccine-related content on their platform was linked to us 12. And they said it was not anti-vaccine content, it was just content relevant to vaccines. So that's a 1,300-fold margin of error that the CCDH perpetuated. And then that lie was carried forward into the mouths of Vivek Murthy, the Surgeon General. And then, of course, Biden himself said that us 12 were killing people. And we were basically tarred and feathered and tarred online and defamed in hundreds of thousands of places. But here's what's just happened is that they have just acknowledged that we should never have been characterized as so-called spreaders of misinformation because we had not actually violated their policies. There's the proof right there. The implication then is that anybody who continues to defame us, which is happening all the time, okay, there are mainstream media reports constantly still assigning the term spreader of misinformation to myself, to others on the Disinfo Dozen list, and to the millions of Americans that stood up and had their accounts taken or their, accounts suppressed. We didn't lie. We told the truth. We exercised our First Amendment rights, which incidentally covers lying. Okay. So even if we were so-called deliberate spreaders of misinformation, that would have potentially been covered by our constitutional protections. That's how profound that value sits at the heart of this country. And despite that, Vivek Murthy himself was found later to have, through emails that are now disclosed, to have directed Meta to cover up true stories of vaccines, deaths, and injuries. That means that they were spreading dangerous disinformation. They deliberately suppressed true stories of vaccine injuries and deaths. That's the very definition of disinformation that can actually result in people dying. They claimed we were doing that by trying to protect ourselves and others, making statements like, maybe it's okay for us to breathe the air without a mask, or maybe I don't really want to participate in an mRNA transhumanistic transgenic experiment. Remember, 4 years ago, by me saying that line here on YouTube, I would have been completely shut down. Now, I will give YouTube credit and Alphabet. They are allowing us to speak. And that's one reason why I'm putting this video on, because right now, you are not seeing mainstream media reporting on this. And this is a really important point. It's the same content, right? 2021, okay? They said your channel's removed, and they said your content was found to have severely and repeatedly violated our community standards, okay? That's what they wrote when they removed my channels. But then they looked at the same content a few days ago and they said, you know what? We took another look. We can confirm your channel does not violate our community guidelines. I'm sorry. That right there is the government, right? Behind the scenes, directing them to violate, basically my rights. There's the proof. Okay. So I just want people to be aware that this happened because it has profound implications. I am presently, along with five other plaintiffs, in a federal civil rights lawsuit in the Fifth Circuit Appeals Court here in Florida. And it is actually one of our defendants is Alphabet. Meta is another defendant. And essentially, what this email shows and what this development shows is that, yes, our rights were violated. We were targeted by our own government, directed actually by a foreign NGO. that is a unregistered foreign agent. That's the Center for Countering Digital Hate based in the UK, and they haven't registered as a influence operation on behalf of another government, even though that's exactly what they are doing and what they did. And so that's one reason why Jordan has a House Judiciary Committee that's looking at them, that he subpoenaed them, and they are still enjoying a quite interesting freedom because they claim First Amendment rights and protections by being a nonprofit here in this country as if they're a citizen when they're literally going for the juggler of our rights, other citizens, and they haven't registered, which they have to by law when they are working on behalf of foreign governments and interests. There's 17 dark money funders that have been identified. We know their names, okay? So they're trying to launder influence by extremely wealthy and influential individuals, and they are at present infecting our executive branch. That was what was found in the Biden era. They were part of the whole. Morgan McSweeney was an advisor, right, to Keir Starmer, and he's the one who set up CCDH. He was an advisor to Kamala Harris right before the election when it was found out that 100 UK political operatives were here in our country, basically violating our election integrity. That's the backstory here. So, once again, I'm doing the video so people realize the historical moment this represents, which is that after 4 years of abusive defamation, deplatforming, demonetization, threats of lawfare, actual lawfare, they have just decided to restore my account as well as Riza Islam's account. And now we're trying to get that restorative justice for others on the list, as well as Meta, Facebook, LinkedIn. I had 2 million different followers from all these platforms that were removed in the course of about a year because of this operation. But the good news is things are changing. So if you are interested in our lawsuit, because it is for all Americans, we are standing up where Biden versus Missouri failed. This lawsuit will solve that problem. We are looking for declarative relief. We want a government to acknowledge what happened. We want all parties that are named. You can look at the details below. And this is a lawsuit that you are welcome to support. This is a pro bono situation. We have Jeff Childers, Nick Whitney. These are incredible lawyers that are dedicated to health freedom. They decided they were going to take this on because they believe that this is essential for us to reestablish our civil rights, our constitutionally protected rights, so they can't do this to us again. So, in a way, this is a victory announcement. And I really do appreciate everyone who has supported, both GreenMedInfo, Stand for Health Freedom. That's another nonprofit I co-founded that stands for now almost 1 million advocates who believe that you have a right to determine your health destiny. You have parental rights. You deserve informed consent. These are broad-based, nonpartisan advocacies that everyone can get behind. I'm also proudly the co-founder of the Global Wellness Forum, co-founded with Marla Maples, Dr. Ed Group. We're a global coalition. I just got back from the EU Parliament where I was able to speak on behalf of these coalitions regarding how essential free speech is, bodily sovereignty. This is a global movement. It's not just about the United States anymore. It is spreading like wildfire, and this is an incredible sign. It's just the beginning. Thank you so much.